We got this story from Human Events, breaking from Jack Posobiec.
Oh.
Leaked State Department memo indicates official support for Black Lives Matter agenda. Do you want to know what one of their agenda items is? Disrupting the nuclear family. Is that part of the Biden administration? I mean, the dude's already a racist according to federal courts.
Right.
He's Biden. This is the craziest thing. The Biden administration has implemented relief funds for restaurants. Only if you're not white, though. If you're white, back of the line. So what happened is this one guy sues. The problem? They already gave out billions of dollars. So they have decided, illegally, violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and unconstitutionally, to give money on the basis of race. And you can sue them, and you can stop them, but they already did it. So what?
Well, and by the way, Biden is the greatest Trojan horse ever. And here's why. They got the oldest, whitest guy in the entire world to be the one who's out there pushing critical race theory and official support for Black Lives Matter, because Joe Biden's not running this show. You know, I mean, and the scary thing to me is, and this sounds like such a crazy conspiracy theorist. The crazy thing to me is, like, I know that Joe Biden's not running this show, and I know Kamala Harris isn't running this show. So I'm always left with who's actually making decisions in this, because there's really insidious stuff that's happening. Somebody is being very effective at their job. Well, we just don't know who it is.
But maybe not. Could it be that Joe Biden is so pathetic and weak that Black Lives Matter stuff can just waltz right in?
Yeah, but like somebody, the way that somebody's making these decisions, somebody is saying at some level, institutionally, let's make this part of this.
I think, so the alternative...
And it doesn't have to be one person who's in charge, by the way.
But the alternative to the conspiracy theory is the Standalone Complex, which is a bunch of people doing the same thing that looks like a conspiracy.
Yeah.
I really do think that it's not so much that we're looking at a nucleus in control, because Biden certainly does not exude nucleus in control. I think we're looking at the opposite, a fracturing and confusion, and the only thing people know is what's in the news. And the news is woke, woke, woke. So they're just like, woke, I guess. But it's also kind of like a Mexican standoff. So you have a lot of people who probably hate wokeness, but they're scared of speaking out because they think they'll get canceled.
Yep.
So what you have is 100 people in a room all going, I'm woke, but deep down they're all anti-woke, but they're scared other people are woke. You see what it is?
Yep.
So I don't see it as a grand conspiracy because it's too ridiculous and nonsensical.
Well, and in a way, this may be the opposite side of the coin that Trump had when it came to staffing. Trump's number one issue was staffing. He relied on the establishment think tanks in D.C. to fill out his mid-level and low-level political appointees. The result was a whole bunch of people who didn't believe Trump, who didn't like Trump, and who took it upon themselves to run their own little fiefdoms. The Biden administration, the progressives may have just done a really great job at making sure their people are the people who got hired. The true believers ended up there.
Yep.
I mean, it's not the Rahm Emanuel disciples who are in charge in the Biden administration.
I called it. I liken it to fire, in that it's just an expansive, chaotic, and destructive force that once it grabs onto something that can fuel its fire, it does. So it's fairly random. And it's spreading into the military. It's spreading into the State Department, to the Federal Reserve, which is like one of the weirdest stories. Do we have that? Yeah, we have that one right here. Look at this. Mm-hmm. Senate Republicans expand investigation into woke mission creep of Federal Reserve. Now that is the scariest thing. Because I'll tell you one thing. And Ian, he knows this. You can complain about the government being woke, and we can argue about it. Oh, this is bad. When the Federal Reserve gets woke, then I start. Yeah, then I'm getting worried.
Exactly. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
Makes me think that it is intentional. I keep thinking about the Great Reset and the Bank of International Settlements, which basically oversees the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the Bank of Australia, and it's not no government has any oversight of what these organizations are doing. The Great Reset has blatantly said that they want to, I don't know how you describe it, but destroy the economic order and reinstill a new world where we own nothing and that we're all kind of subservient and everything's given to us on loan by some greater. That light just is popping on and off. I don't know if that matters.
Yeah, what up? Ian, you will own nothing and you will be happy.
Well, I hope that that's not the case, but dear Lord. And it seems like they're sowing dissent within the United States to break it up because the greatest resistance to that is this liberty that we've got.
I just don't think it's a conspiracy. I think there's no more strong leaders. There's no more social and moral cohesion. And so I don't think there's a strong, powerful cabal of people that want to break it apart. I think it's a bunch of people grabbing, money from the vault as the building's on fire.
I would refer to that Time magazine article that specifically
The shadow campaign?
There's a cabal of people that are intentionally
You see what the
fortifying
media
election.
does?
Well, I'll say this much. My colleague Brent Hamachek at Human Events wrote a really awesome article about how we're now all dissidents. The conservatives were dissidents. And he's got this great thing where everybody always talks about, like, well, there's more of us than them. Who cares that there's more of us than them? Because they control all of the levers of power in this country. Big business is run by the left. Academia is run by the left. Pop culture is run by the left. Like they're in control of everything. So it doesn't take a conspiracy theory. What it takes is it takes a group of people who are all thinking the same way, who also happen to occupy the most powerful positions in the country. I mean, we always talk about like Fox News. That's great. We have like one Fox News.
Yeah.
Compare and Fox News does great, but compare like what Fox News's viewership is to what all the other left-wing media outlets are. And then you realize Fox looks like this and all of the left-wing organizations look like that. I mean, it is I think we've been lulled into this sense of believing that because there's more of us than them, that somehow is going to save us, and it's not.
So Ian's certainly not a conservative, and
Not really. Sometimes depends on the situation.
I don't think there's a sane argument for saying you're a conservative. I can certainly say you have libertarian
I
overlap
support
with
like
conservatives.
the death penalty. That's kind of a conservative
Really?
view. Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
I'm hardcore when it comes to military discipline and stuff.
Wow, I didn't realize the Ian hippie guy was like, kill them all.
Don't let the authoritarian out, Tim. I don't know. I don't think of myself as liberal, or I'm both liberal in certain situations which need it, and conservative when we want conservation and to maintain and retain.
My point is, conservatives certainly call me left-wing, but left-wings call me conservative because obviously I'm kind of in the middle. And so the conservatives actually have allies with disaffected liberals and moderates. Liberal people who have actually watched the news, surprise, surprise, end up joining like the likes of the intellectual dark web or becoming fans of it. But most of these people just watch MSNBC. Now here's the problem. There may be more of us on the freedom and individualism side than the constructivism, collectivism side. However, if we got 100 people on this side, of which 20 have spines, and they have 40 people on that side, of which 30 have spines, they're going to win those battles. Over and over and over again. I can't tell you how many celebrities I've talked to who are like, well, actually I can't, it's probably like 10 or 12, who are like, I believe everything you say, I'm a big fan of the show, but I can't speak up because I'll lose everything. And I'm like, then you don't deserve anything.
Correct.
You get to, what you're saying is, when you tell me this, guys, when you call me, you tell me this, you're telling me that you're okay extracting value from the system to live lavishly, because let's be real, you guys are rich. You're not suffering like the average American, and you won't give up your silver spoon to save your own country. Fine. Then you don't deserve it. And what is anyone going to do? Because they'll certainly wield the power. Not only do the leftist celebrities wield the power, but even leftist celebrities who also don't like it will just toe the line if it means cash in the bank.
Yeah, and also afraid that they'll come for them. I mean, look at how many times that the left has eaten one of their own. They'll do it. You know, I mean they have no problem sacrificing one of their own if it means it keeps 100 more of them in line.
Man, it's like, who would want to be part of the Borg? You know?
The metaphor I keep thinking is the World War II, the Russians and the Germans, and there were so many more Russians, as far as I know, and there were so much fewer Germans, but they had better technology. Whereas you see these people on the left have access to the media, they have the better technology, they have the tanks, the blitzkrieg, and then all these other people are technologically maybe less empowered. The Russians only won that war. Well, it's complicated, but they were allies, external allies, and they also won by war of attrition, by destroying what they love, burning their own cities to the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they could suffer the most losses in the war. So it's not.
It's the Zap Brannigan strategy. That sending wave after wave of your own men until you just overrun the enemy. They were like mass-produced trash tanks. The communist method was really just let the people die. Just mowing people into it. The capitalist and American strategy was have the efficient machine, have the efficient strategy. So we have air superiority and nuclear bombs. That means we minimize the risk to ourselves. The communists load them all up and send them out and just sacrifice wave after wave of your own men.
They didn't care. Just grind them all up. Just grind them all up.
It worked.
So it did. It's not pretty.
For only some amount of time, certain amount of time though.
Yeah.
It may not be a good metaphor because if the people on the right were the it's just this ridiculous outside of the box metaphor, but like the cancel culture thing of just like keep going with it, keep saying what might get you banned online, and then they keep one by one taking these people out. It's just. I think this metaphor is not good.
Well, it's only
Thanks for bearing with me.
Yes. That was fun.
Yeah, it was.
It's only a matter of time because they control the institutions till everybody's been.
So what? You cracked the code. The Allies cracked the code. That gave them some.
Google, Facebook, Twitter. They are slowly making excuses to purge people, and they have. This is what happens when you have a religion that is violent, oppressive, and extreme. Christians aren't that.
And you know, the Nazis, violent, excessive, and extreme, actually ate themselves from the inside out. As you can see, this left is doing. They tried to kill Hitler. Like their own people tried to murder him, and that basically drove Hitler insane, and then made him start making poor decisions of leadership.
It's extremists,
and then they fell apart. So you could see that happening to this wokeness too. I could see that. They obviously go after each other, like you were saying earlier.
And I really do. It's I'm not always the most optimistic guy about this stuff. Like I think politically, in the short term, I think we're gonna feel the pain for a while. And even if Republicans win back the House and the Senate, I have no faith in these people, none at all. So but long term, I do feel like that this like woke like push is going to undermine Democrats because again, like I said, until we pass my amendment to outlaw suburban women from being able to vote. Like they matter, and this critical race theory stuff being
until
pushed,
then,
right? This critical race theory stuff that's being pushed in public schools, like this is the type of stuff. And Democrats are starting to warn, liberal thinkers are starting to warn Democrats. You've got a lot of problems here. You've got you are going to disaffect that base that you just relied on to get elected by pushing this critical race theory stuff. You run around teaching that this country is fundamentally a racist country, that it's that we're still a fundamentally racist country, that we're founded on racism. It's not simply teaching, slavery was terrible and the lessons learned from that, and Jim Crow was terrible, but that somehow we're beyond saving, that this country is just garbage.
It's really, I got a really simple solution for everybody. If you work for one of these companies, or you are a member of a school board, or you have kids in one of these schools, and you hear critical theory in general, file a complaint with the appropriate administration or organization. So if you work for a company and they announce they're doing critical race theory trainings, or if another employee brings up critical race theory, report them for racial harassment immediately. I'm not exaggerating. You go to your boss and say, Janet came and started spouting a bunch of racist stuff, and I demand you tell her to stop, otherwise I will file a complaint. You have been warned. And then you know what they'll do? They'll say, Janet, stop the racist stuff. And she'll go, I was arguing against race. I don't care what it is. Stop it.
Right.
People are getting mad.
That's why you have to use their own language against them. That's why whenever I see somebody like talking about critical race theory, like yes, you accuse them of being racist because that's what they are.
But
our side won't do it though. They're like, oh, critical race theory it's a kind of bad thing. It's like rather than saying like this is racist.
If you work for a company, here I'll tell you what I would do because we talked about this last week. If I worked for a company and the boss was like, we're doing a racial sensitivity training, I would be like, oh, this is gonna be great. And I would go in, and no matter what they say, I would get offended. There was a training video, I guess. I think this was from Coke or something. I can't remember where I heard this, but someone was talking to me about. In the training, it explained racial stereotypes. It was like people often think Latinos are lazy and said a bunch of things. I'm like, if you're Latino, you should immediately say, "Excuse me, did we just get invited to your Klan rally so you can explain to people why people think Latinos are lazy?" And then they'll have to shut it down. See, here's how it works. You give your boss a warning, and if they don't rectify the problem, then you inform them you're filing a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, I think it's called, EEOC, and then you go and file the complaint. Now, again, I've mentioned this before, maybe someone at the administration at the EEOC is going to be super woke and then tell you to go screw yourself, and that's where it starts getting bad. But for the time being, you just go in, and you don't even got to be specific. You don't got to be, listen, if there was a guy, and he's a boss and he's like a white progressive guy, and he's like, we're going to be doing, critical race theory diversity training. I'd be like, if you do that, I will be filing a complaint. And then when I file the complaint, I'll say he started spouting a bunch of extremely racist sentiment, talking about how some people of certain races were inherently bad or wrong, and it was bad to look this way and have this colored skin. What did he say specifically? I can't repeat it. Don't make me say it. That's it. Go to the boss. Go above your boss and say, he said a bunch of racist things. What did he say? I will not repeat it, but I have warned you. He is harassing and is racist. People need to do this, because guess what? It's not about using the language of the left. It's about, you could be sitting there and being like, man, that Chris Rock's a funny guy. Excuse me? And then they go and complain about cultural appropriation. And then your boss is going to be like, you really got to chill out on the racist stuff. And you're like, wait, what? I didn't say anything. Well, they complained about you being racist. So if they bring it up, complain about it.
The problem is our side has traditionally sucked at this. Because, by the way, because most of us just want to be left alone. We just want to do our own thing. Like, fine, you have opinions. I don't really like them. Whatever. It doesn't change my life. But you're right. We can no longer just sit back and let that happen. Because the fact that we've allowed ourselves to be rolled over to the point where it's not okay. We're not allowed to have opinions anymore that they don't like.
It's as if you're not willing to fight back. I
agree.
You know what really bothers me? I go through like some phases when I watch bullying, right? So I see a kid getting bullied, and the first thing I get mad about is the bully. Leave that dude alone. What's wrong with you? And then after like the 10th time, I get mad at? The kid getting bullied. You know why? Bro, at a certain point, you've got to change what's happening. You can't keep walking up to the bully. Stop walking this direction. Stop going to the school, or stand up for yourself. But at a certain point, if you don't stand up for yourself, after all of this, I won't defend you. I'll get mad and I'll say you're on your own. And so I've talked about this with police. Like the cops in the Minneapolis area. They're getting defunded in Brooklyn Center. And you know what? I'm not going to defend them. Sorry. I defended them before the election. What did we see? In Philadelphia, they're experiencing one of the worst crime surges ever. So they re-elect in a landslide their progressive, soft-on-crime DA. Well, let's keep doing our fire hot, but let's try it again. Maybe fire not hot this time. I'm not going to defend the people of Philadelphia. I'm not going to defend those cops if they stick around and they get locked up for trying to arrest somebody. And look, at first, I'm going to be like, these people burning on these cities are awful. They're bad. They must be stopped. Then I watch in a landslide victory, the Democrats vote in the politicians who supported the riots, and I'm like, okay, it's all yours. Have a nice day.
Yeah, let the rich white people experience what they bought it. They paid for it. Let them have it. Like you look, if that's what you want. And but none of them actually want that.
Right.
None of them want that.
but
because they're all living in their estates and they're in the nice areas of town, and they're like they think they're immune from this stuff.
Well, but you know what's happening now? Wall Street Journal reported the areas that have experienced the worst surge in crime, black neighborhoods, Latino neighborhoods.
Of course.
Not affecting the white progressive suburbs.
No.
So take away their cops. Take them. They want to abolish the police? You get what you ask for. Because I'll tell you what, I live in the middle of nowhere. We got guns. We're good. I'd prefer if it wouldn't have to be this way, but if they're advocating for abolishing the police, I'm going to take responsibility for myself. But going back to the stuff about critical theory, it's not just race theory, it's critical gender theory, it's critical theory as a whole, which is this Marxist philosophy, Frankfurt School, etc. It's really, really simple. You see a flyer on the wall that says white privilege or anything like that, you immediately file an anonymous complaint about racial harassment from the individual who put it up. You don't got to get specific. You can say they were spouting racist things, disparaging people on the basis of their race. It's a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and I'm upset about it. I think it's Title VII. And if they don't rectify it, you can file a complaint, and they will get in trouble. In New York, it's particularly serious. If you live in New York City, it's a $250,000 fine if they do not stop this behavior. So you warn your boss, say you work at Starbucks, and they're like, we're going to have a talk about white privilege. No, you're not, because if you say one more word, I will file a complaint for racial harassment. They'll be like, say it. I told you not to harass me. And then go file a complaint and say they were harassing people on the basis of their race, saying some employees were better than others on the basis of their race, some were worse than others. Boom, $250K out of their pocket. That's not even using their own tactics. That's just the law. And it's a law that today, the 1964 Civil Rights Act, basically everybody agrees with. It should be illegal to discriminate on the basis of race, except for the woke left. Nobody's fighting, though.
Yeah, but by the way, I'm 100% for using their own tactics.
Right.
Like look. I wish we lived in a place where the cancel culture didn't exist. But as long as cancel culture exists, then I'm for canceling liberals. And I see this on Twitter all the time when people are like, "Stop celebrating this person got fired because they had this position." No, I'm going to celebrate every single time one of theirs goes down. I'm going to celebrate because again, this is a war of attrition, and until they start feeling some of the pain, they're not going to change. The policies aren't going to change. They're not going to change what they're doing until enough of them start feeling the pain of it.
No, I don't think that's going to work. They sacrifice their own. They cancel their own.
They do, but eventually, eventually it's going to start, and we've seen it a little bit. When there'd be recently the woman who was the Hamas terrorist supporter at AP, who lost her job, and they're like, all these reporters are like, this is so terrible that somebody can't have their own opinion, blah blah blah. It's like, where were you guys? Like any conservative in the entire world gets fired for having objectionable opinions. This woman is actually a supporter of terrorism, and you're angry that she lost her job.
Could have sworn Marjorie Taylor Greene got stripped of her committees for things she said years before she got elected.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing how that is. But again, let them feel the pain from it.
I'm in favor of cancelers getting canceled, but I'm not in favor of leftists getting canceled for their opinions, because there's got to be a standard. If this is a leftist who is actively trying to get people fired and then they get fired, I will laugh and say, get out of here. I'm not going to help you. You're nuts. It's like the fire being put out by a controlled burn. We're happy about it. But if it's just some dumb commie Twitter account who says something communist so they ban them, that's bad. That's really bad. There's got to be a line. So anybody who's for free speech, I'll protect their right to free speech. Anybody who's not, well then, you don't want my support anyway.
But the problem is that all of these people are for cancel culture themselves.
I'm saying if there is somebody who is pro free speech.
Yeah, unfortunately, those people don't exist on the left anymore.
There's a little bit. There's a decent amount. Shoe on head. She's for free speech, so I will absolutely defend her at every turn for her right to speak and say what she wants to say.
I'll defend Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh,
there you go.
But Tulsi is she's got more spine than most of the Republicans on this stuff.
I know, which is embarrassing, by the way. It's absolutely embarrassing that the
progressive Democrat Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah,
she's progressive. She's for gun control. She's
for socialized medicine.
Yeah.
She's not conservative. But again, I think this is where some of the breakdowns on the political partisan battles these days aren't on these traditional left-right axis. It's not like it's a whole bunch of, are you pro-life? Are you pro-choice? Are you pro-this, pro-that? Some of this stuff really is crossing all of those lines. Yeah. And for us to win, we need more of the Tulsi Gabbards. We need more of the Tulsi Gabbards saying, you know what, this is ridiculous. Like Lori Lightfoot in Chicago saying she's only going to give interviews to reporters of color.
Can you name a Republican who's called out the anti-white racism from a politician ever? Yeah. I can't. I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. Tulsi Gabbard said this is anti-white racism, and she should resign. It should be condemned. Everyone should come together. And it's like, yeah, Tulsi, we know, but they're not. They're not. No one's playing fair. The Republicans aren't playing at all. They're sitting on their hands, and the Democrats are just trying to burn it down.
Right. Well, and by the way, again, this is because Democrats, when they get power, are willing to use every tool available to them, and our side won't. Which is why I said even if we went back to the House and Senate, I have no faith. I
think of it like this: you vote, there's a bank, and you vote for the Democrats because they're promising to run. When we run the bank, everyone's going to get a higher interest rate. You're all going to get 10%. Wow! And then as soon as they get in, you just watch them going into the vault and carrying out stacks of cash, and you're like, where are you going? What are you doing? And then you're like, you know what? I'm going to vote for the Republican next time because these people are just taking money from the vault. Then you vote for Republicans, and they're just sitting on the toilet on their phones, and you can't find them. You're like, what's going on? The Democrats are still looting the vault, and then they're just all in the bathroom on their phones because they don't want to actually do their jobs. So who do you vote for? Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.